And I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds before we get started. Make sure that you have your TA in front of you. I know your TA wasn't in your normal packet, but you should have a poem should be in front of you, and the date should be the 23rd. Okay, so we're just going to get started. So I first want to start off today's lesson with kind of reviewing some things that we talked about in terms of structure. We've talked about structure both with fiction and nonfiction text. Now I want you to think, what are the 3 types of fiction texts that we've learned so far in TA?
Do you have any ideas, Ariana?
One can be compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast. Okay, so when we're thinking about nonfiction, we can think about compare and contrast. Now, when we're considering fiction, we're thinking of things like drama is a type of fiction text. Can anybody tell me the other 2 types of fiction text that we've learned?
Ethan T?
It's not about the question. I'm just asking which is the TA packet.
It should say March 23rd on the top. It's going to be a poem. Thank you, Jace. Can you hold that up to the camera? It says 4th grade textual analysis, Monday, March 23rd, 2020.
Jace, let's hear from you. What are the other 2 types of fiction text?
There's folk. I know one is folktale, but I forgot the other one.
So not quite folktale. So we have a drama, we have prose, and the last one, I'm going to give someone else a chance.
Jasleen M?
It's poem.
Yeah, poems. Now we can see a variety of any of these types of fiction texts. Now I want us to think about the structure in fiction as we go through today's lesson. So let's first go ahead and let's take a look. I'm going to begin sharing my screen. I'm going to pull up, 1 second, TA. So we already decided that this was a poem. What are my thinking jobs for poetry?
Let's hear from Anselmo.
I don't have a TA packet.
Okay, so you can follow along on the screen. What are the thinking jobs of poetry? You know that.
The thinking jobs of poetry is the literal meaning and the deeper meaning.
Excellent. Literal meaning and deeper meaning. So we want to consider both of those as we read throughout the text. Oftentimes those things are also going to be intertwined. So I want you to keep that in mind as we read. So your eyes should be on your text as I read aloud. So I'm going to give everyone a moment to get there. Pencil should be in your hand, ready to annotate when we stop. So our poem is titled Wintertime by Robert Louis Stevenson. Late lies the wintry sun abed, a frosty, fiery sleepyhead. Blinks but an hour or 2, and then a blood-red orange sets again. So I'm going to stop here. And now I have to consider, what is happening in this particular stanza? Well, it's talking about a wintry sun, and it's calling it a sleepyhead. Now, I know that authors will oftentimes use figurative language, so if I'm really thinking about what's happening here, the author's talking about how the winter sun seems to rise later. So I'm going to note that down. Everyone's pencil should be up and writing. I'm going to give everybody about 10 seconds to get there. I see Ethan T with his pencil to his paper. Great job. Good, Ariana. Okay, excellent. We're going to continue reading, and this time I'm going to push more of the thinking work onto you. So eyes are back on your page. Before the stars have left the skies, at morning in the dark I rise, and shivering in my nakedness, by the candle bathe and dress. So this stanza is a little bit different than the one before. What's literally occurring in this stanza? We now seem to have a speaker. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to consider and what's happening in this particular stanza.
Damien.
I think the stanza means that, like, basically, since the sun is basically leaving, they're gonna be cold and basically gonna be introduced to winter.
Okay, and what makes you think that, Damien?
It makes me think that because it's basically talking about how the sun is like sleeping and not like really doing as much as the winter cold is. Because
Okay, so eyes are back on the text. So stanza 2 says, before the stars have left the skies, at morning in the dark I rise. So we're introduced to a speaker here. And the speaker is telling us that they rise in the dark and they're shivering. So this idea that Damien had brought up about it being cold makes sense, and it relates back to the previous stanza. So now we're introduced to a speaker. So speaker gets ready in the cold and dark. Now, how does that relate back to the title?
Safwan, how would you say it relates back?
I would say it relates back because it's saying wintertime, and cold and dark relate to wintertime because they are part of wintertime.
Great. That's exactly correct. Great job connecting it back into the title. We're going to continue to read the next 2 stanzas together. So I should be back on your page as I read aloud. Close by the jolly fire I sit to warm my frozen bones a bit, or with a reindeer sled, explore the colder countries round the door. When to go out, my nurse doth wrap me in a comforter and cap. The cold wind burns my face and blows its frosty pepper up my nose. So I'm going to have everyone independently note down what is literally occurring within these 2 stanzas. Again, relate it back. Think about what we've already determined was happening in the 2 stanzas before it. Everyone should have about 30 seconds to finish that up. Great job. I see McConn's pencil to his paper. Liam's eyes are on his text. Andrew, pick up the pencil. If you have one, you need to be writing. Good. So I want someone now to share out what was occurring within the stanza. What is the speaker doing?
Jakari.
The speaker is finding a way to keep warm.
Speaker is finding a way to keep warm. Any other ideas? Someone else like to add on?
Let's hear from Rodrigo.
I think that the speaker's sitting next to the fireplace and he wants to go sled, and the nurse gives him materials.
Okay, so these 2, based off of what Rodrigo said and Jakari before, these 2 stanzas are all about what the speaker does during this winter time. So keeping warm or going out to explore. So here we're going to note down. Speaker describes activities. Keeping warm and exploring. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and read the last stanza. You're tracking your page again. Black are my steps on silver sod, thick blows my frosty breath abroad, and tree and house and hill and lake are frosted like a wedding cake. Now, as you independently annotate for this last stanza, I want you to consider what is either similar or different from the previous stanzas that we've read. So another 30 seconds, go ahead and annotate independently. Awesome job, Shania, on staying focused. Okay, so who would like to share out? 1, what's occurring in the stanza? How does it connect to the previous stanza? Is anything, different? Do you notice any differences or similarities?
Amanat.
What's happening in this stanza is that the speaker describing how when he went outside, he saw everything covered in snow, and it's similar to the other stanzas. No, it's actually different from the other stanzas because the speaker talked about how cold and how he was exploring, but then in the last stanza, he was talking about what he saw outside.
And that's exactly correct. So within this last stanza, the speaker is talking about what he observes outside, that everything is covered with snow, which is a little bit different from what he was previously saying, which is about his experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and annotate for what Amanat has shared with us. And so speaker, and if you don't have these ideas, I want you to go back and revise your thinking. Speaker describes outside covered in snow. Give you about 5 more seconds there. Now, what I'm going to have us do is we're going to go into breakout rooms and we're going to work on our main idea jot there. Actually, no, we'll keep going. So here I want us to consider, I'm not going to write it down. We're going to consider our main idea jot together. So we have what's literally occurring in the poem. Now, what's literally happening throughout the entire poem? What's this poem all about?
Daniele.
The whole poem is about how what the experience of the speaker outside and about the positive things about wintertime and some of the negative parts.
Can you give me an example?
One of the positives is that there's lots of snow and he can sled and explore the colder countries. And one of the negatives is that the cold wind burns my face and blows its frosty peppers up my nose.
Excellent. So here the speaker is talking about their experience, both positive and negative, during wintertime. That's what the entire poem is literally about. Now, when we're thinking about our deeper meaning is often intertwined in our literal meaning. And we need to consider what message is the author trying to give the speaker. Now, oftentimes when we see poems about nature or seasons, we can consider that the author is speaking to either their appreciation for a particular part of nature or the strength of a particular part of nature. So in this case, this poem is just simply about the author's appreciation for winter. So now I want us to go ahead and move on. We're going to move on from our main idea jot, and I want everyone to flip over to the prompt. So everyone should be with their prompt in front of them in the next 5 seconds. Okay, so as I read this prompt aloud, what I want you to do is I want you to consider thinking, what are the things that I'm going to need to accomplish to answer all parts of the prompt? Because then we're going to work together to determine how many paragraphs we're going to need in our extended response. So everyone go ahead and track the prompt. The prompt states, what type of text is wintertime and how is it different from prose and drama? Explain how the structure the author uses allowed the author to convey their ideas. In your answer, be sure to describe why this is an example of poetry, including at least 3 elements of poetry. Describe how this is different from prose. Describe how this is different from drama. And explain how the structure allows the author to convey their ideas. Use details from the passage to support your answer. So as we go into breakout rooms, what I need you to consider, what ideas can you group together and how many paragraphs are you going to need in your outline and in your extended response in order to answer the prompt fully? So begin to think about that. You're going to discuss it in your groups. Miss Nan, are we good for breakout rooms?
You have some additional students in your breakout rooms because of their names. So just letting you know that. Hold on. I just saw Haley came into my group. So one second. On how many minutes?
Let's give, to discuss, let's give like 4 minutes.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. You said 4 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Going to breakout rooms. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Miss Nanhu, my favorite teacher.
One second. I'm sorry, boys and girls. Okay, guys, we're gonna go back to the main room because there was something happening. So, yeah.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, 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 ooh,
Sounds.
ooh, ooh,
Stop writing in the chat
ooh.
because everybody on Samo can see what you're writing, even all the teachers.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Miss McLean. You're muted. There you go.
Kylie. Can you start over, Kylie?
I think how many paragraphs we need are, I think we need 4 paragraphs because we need we need an example of poetry, and we have to explain how it's different from prose and drama, and explain how the structure allows the author to convey the ideas.
Okay, so Kylie, what I see that you did is you took the first 4 bullet points and you've taken each of them as a separate task. Now, we can organize it that way. Now, can anyone think of a way that we can organize our paragraphs that would require less paragraphs than 4? Think about which ideas can you group together in a paragraph.
Jasleen C. Did that not work? Oh, all right, I'm not able. Okay, Jasleen C, go ahead.
You can put
when they're describing the differences between poetry, prose, and drama, and we could put those paragraphs together to show like it's a difference between them, and then leave the last paragraph so it could be only 2 paragraphs.
Okay, eyes are back on me. So I agree with you in thinking of how we can put prose and drama together and how it's different from poetry. But what I actually did is separated it into 3 paragraphs. Here having paragraph number 1, paragraph number 2, and paragraph number 3. So the first paragraph would be all about giving examples of why this is poetry by choosing 3 elements of poetry. That would take up 1 paragraph. Our second paragraph, I grouped together the ideas of how poetry is different from prose and drama because it's going to be for the exact same reasons. And then finally, my third paragraph, explain how the structure allows the author to convey their ideas. That's a completely different idea and task I need to cover, which is why it's its own separate paragraph. So you can do it either Kylie did and separate the bullet points out individually, or you can go ahead and describe how prose and drama are different together. Now, the thing we want to note here is that we're grouping like tasks together, so that way I'm still answering all parts of the question. So for IP, what we're going to do now that we've determined how many paragraphs we're going to need in order to answer our extended response, we're going to break out into breakout rooms. And in our breakout rooms, we're going to be expected to complete a finished draft or outline for our extended response. So I should see 3 topic sentences or 3 topic ideas and 2 pieces of evidence for each of these paragraphs.
Okay, so I'm gonna send this out into breakout rooms for 15 minutes.
12 minutes.
12, I'm sorry. Okay, hopefully it works. And open.
Look, I have no hairline.
Hi, everyone. Hey guys, so we're focusing on our outlines right now. So go ahead. Yes, Jason, I'm gonna unmute Jason.
There's like 2 texts in the back. Do we do those?
No. So they were supposed to be for homework, but we're just gonna have you finish completing your outline and writing it out.
So we can do that after?
Pardon? No, don't worry about those 2 texts. Right now we're just worrying about that one. Yusuf, let me share. I'm gonna share my screen so you guys have, not everybody has a TA. So let me just share my screen first, and everybody else, you should be working on creating your outline while I'm talking to individual scholars, okay? Okay. So Yenzel, 1 second, Makan, 1 second. Let me just pull up my TA for Yusuf. I should not hear any sounds. Okay, so Yusuf, you need the text in front of you? Huh? Yusuf. Do you need the text in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, Yusuf, you can see the prompt? Okay, so why don't you write down the different bullets, what it's saying, because I know you don't have anything in front of you to complete it. So why don't you do that first? Okay, let me see. Yandel, what's your question?
My question is, no, it's not really a question, it's a statement, but my statement is I don't have it.
Bye-bye.
You don't have a packet either? Okay, so do the same thing. Why don't you go over the bullets and help you set out your outline using the bullets, and then when you need the text back in front of you to get your evidence, just let me know and I'll scroll up for you. Okay? So we should be using the bullets to help us create our Roman numerals. And then when we need our evidence, I'll just go back to the text and then you can select your evidence from there.
So I need a piece of paper. I can write it down.
Yeah, so do you have like a notebook or loose leaf? Yeah, so go ahead and get that if you don't have that in front of you right now. Yes, Makan.
So I forgot, what do you call, like, with the stanzas in the text? All those
lines?
Yeah, like those lines that are short. What do you call those?
You mean like these?
Like the structure of how the sentences are going. What do you call that?
They're stanzas.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have anything done yet?
I do.
Haley, let me see your paper. Put it up to the camera. Hold on, let me open my screen.
I have my topic sentence done.
That's fine. Everybody should, except for Yusuf and Yandel, because they don't have it directly in front of them. You should have at least a topic sentence. You can still see my screen, right, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like this is one part of your outline, right? Robert Louis Stevenson uses several elements of poetry in the poem Winter Time, right? And then one piece of evidence is the author uses verses or individual lines to express ideas. An example of the verse is, late lies the wintry sun abed. Okay, so this is, remember we worked on outlines so many times. So this is what your outline should look like. Yeah, Jason.
I'm on my topic sentence.
Okay, that's fine. So you ready? This is your first one? Let me see. Okay, good. Yeah.
For my poetry topic sentence, I put that this text is an example of poetry because the text has rhyming words and it also has stanzas, but I don't know how I'm supposed to show the stanzas as text evidence. How is that supposed to work?
Repeat your question.
Since I have stanzas as I have stanzas as one of my details for why this is poetry. But how am I supposed to put stanzas as in evidence?
So you would say, so you're answering the first bullet?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example of poetry, including at least 3 elements of poetry. So in this first stanza, so in stanza 1, like something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of, it's basically if you were to explain like a text itself. So you would say in the text in paragraph 1, it said, you know, so it's the same idea.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jace, you're welcome. Jace, do you have a question? What's your question, Jace?
How do you explain the rhythm in a text?
The rhythm.
Oh, I know.
I don't see though it's asking you to explain the rhythm. What do you mean?
Like since it's like element, like you have like rhythm and stanzas and rhyming words. Since like rhythm is like an element, how do you explain it?
Oh, okay. So Yusuf, you know the answer to his question? Is that what you're raising your hand for?
I need to go to the text of the one.
Oh, okay. Let me scroll up. Hold on 1 second, Jace. Okay, so rhythm. Does anybody have an idea of rhythm? How you would explain rhythm in the text? I don't see Ari in here.
I don't think he logged on.
No, Ari is right here. He's the cell phone.
He texted me.
Yeah, but he has a window as well. But anyways, did anybody would like to answer Jace's question? Makan, go ahead.
I think it would be rhyming words because for like rap sometimes you need rhyming words to make it flow out. You need rhyming sentences or rhyming words to make the song like flow.
And so how in the text shows they're rhyming?
In the text it will show that because like in stanza 15 it says when to go out my nurse doth wrap me in a comforter and a cap. So like wrap and cap. And
yes. And same thing with if you see in stanza Jace, if you see in stanza 10, it says, close by the jolly fire I sit to warm my frozen bones a bit. So sit and bit rhyme as well. Okay, so there is rhyming going on. What other elements are in here? What
break up.
We're about to leave.
I know. Ellie, just answer the question. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
What's the time?
And Samo, sit still.
Another day.
Yeah, Haley, go ahead.
Huh?
Another rhyme.
What's another element? Okay, I think your video is frozen.
and cap.
So, but Jace, did that help you out? What was one of the elements?
Yeah,
You
but
also
I already
used,
put mine.
figurative language.
So I'm quickly, before we close out, I just really want to talk through the importance of making sure that when we're creating our outlines, that our topic sentences are matching and answering the entire prompt. So for example, in our breakout room, when we were working during IP, we had one scholar who began to answer the first part of the prompt and did a great job in understanding what the prompt was asking, but didn't read it fully and only included one example of an element of poetry when the prompt required you to share at least 3. So in your own words, can someone tell me what's going to be super important when creating our outlines? Ethan, go ahead and share out.
The things that's going to be important is using the full answer. And
What do you mean by that?
I include stanzas. I could include stanzas in the complete sentences.
So I agree with you, and you're stating that we want to make sure we're answering all parts of the prompt and that we're taking the time to really interpret the question. So for homework, making sure that your outline is completed, that's the expectation for IP, and that's going to be part of what you need to do. Now, any questions before we go? Jameer. Hold on one second, Jameer.
Maybe he can unmute himself. I'm not sure.
He doesn't have a mic.
Jameer, you might have to text your question or call your advisor teacher. We can't hear you.
Okay, so just a general reminder, since the questions aren't working, make sure that for homework you're finishing your extended response. That's going to be required from you in order to be complete when we call you tomorrow for your homework calls. Okay, so hopefully we'll troubleshoot any of the issues we came into with this lesson, but I believe that you have your lunch now, and then we'll meet back up for science. Actually, no, you should be actually back for enrichment, which should be, I believe, one moment, I will tell you, should be at 11:50. So everyone needs to be back on Zoom at 11:50 because your specials teachers are going to be here. If you're not, you're going to be considered absent. So please make sure that you're here on time at 11:50. And then we'll have science after that. Okay, so everyone should be set to go. I will see you later on for science.